Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I hope you're all keeping well in the UK heatwave, which is now rolling on 3 weeks, possibly even longer than that. So for today, I'm going to be talking to you about an interesting topic, something I haven't really made a video about too much, so to speak, which is, where will websites be in 5 years' time? Will websites even exist in 5 years' time? And what might replace them? Now, I have got some stuff in front of me, but I broadly know what I want to say anyway. I'm going to be reading off the screen a little bit, quoting different sources, but I'm going to be talking freelance into the camera at the same time. I've got the coffee here as per usual, which is a must-have for these videos. Okay, look, so for those of you who run businesses, you may be a marketing manager within a company, you may be a founder starting a small-scale company, or you may be like a senior manager in a much bigger company, multi-site operation. Now, in case you're seeing kind of inquiries and bookings, drop through the roof, as in, a lack of them, there's been like this kind of quiet shift over, certainly over the last year with kind of zero-click search. So that basically means when, somebody types a query into Google, it will present an AI overview. And according to various statistics, which I will be reading off some as we go through the video, in the US, 68% of searches resulted in what's called a zero-click search. So, it just presented like an AI overview, but people were happy with that, and they didn't bother clicking through into the actual, website, follow-on traffic and stuff. So it's an interesting subject. Obviously we live in the AI era now, so AI overviews and stuff. There's loads of stuff here, we're going to get into it in a minute. I'm not going to give the whole theme of the video away. We're going to work through it, and we'll kind of see where we end up. This shift is already happening. It's a lot of, certainly about 8 and 9 months ago, I remember a lot of businesses were mentioning that their organic traffic or even paid traffic had just literally fallen through the roof almost overnight as these kind of AI overviews were brought in. Look, let's read off the screen a little bit. So in 5 years' time, will anyone type a URL into a browser, like a web browser, hotmail.com, yahoo.com, etc. But these are email, that's a bad example. But will people type in a URL, companyname.com, companyname.co.uk, that type of thing? Or will AI agents be doing the browsing, comparing and buying for people, while the website sits quietly in the background as kind of plumbing, let's call it? Obviously this sounds dramatic, but the shift is already measurable. As I just mentioned, in 2020, first 4 months of 2026, 68.01% of searches in the US resulted without a single click to a website. Now that's a dramatic shift, and that's up from 60.45% in 2024. So it's the steepest jump in a 2-year period. And in case you want to research that yourself, that's a quote from RankBits. Fewer than 1 in 3 searches now end with a visitor to open a web link. Fascinating subject. This is why I feel that a lot of marketeers and companies who are recruiting for marketing staff are, I don't want to use the word clutching at straws, but a little bit worried about whether they've got the strategy right and whether they're doing all the right things, because bottom line is the goalposts have moved. The game, the marketing game, which companies are kind of engaged in to win new clients, has dramatically shifted. So look, our website's going to die. Probably not, but the actual landing page, is probably going to be demoted. From all the research I've done online, what's probably going to happen in the future, almost certainly, is the website is going to become a piece of infrastructure, because websites still need to exist in order for the AI search engines and AI overviews to actually cite the source. So if those websites aren't there, then the AI won't be able to recommend it or cite the source. Okay, so the honest-based evidence answer is more interesting than the headline. Websites won't disappear by 2031, but their job is changing fast, as I just mentioned. The homepage is being demoted from front door to trusted layer source and transaction hub, while discovering, convert conversation, move to AI search engines, agents, social platforms, and messaging apps. There is a big shift happening. I mean, a lot of these kind of AI agents and AI platforms and social media platforms, they're becoming a type of search engine, as a lot of companies now use them for brand awareness and also raise brand awareness, let's say. Okay, so let's talk about zero-click search. So zero-click search is now the norm. You'll see that pretty much just by having a little play around in Google in the URL bar. Okay, this is what it says here. Spark Toro's June 2026 analysis of SimilarWeb clickstream data found that 68% of US searches ended without a click, the fastest acceleration in a decade, largely driven by AI overviews, and that's cited by Arcalia, if you want to look it up. When an AI overview appears, click-through rate drops roughly 60%, according to Site Boosting. So yeah, that's a staggering amount, isn't it? So if you just let's just pause the conversation for a minute. Imagine you're, a marketing manager in a company. Imagine you're a founder of a small business, or you're just starting up a business, or you might be a solopreneur. The purpose of the website, I'm not saying websites are disappearing, but the purpose of a website is kind of shifting. It's more about, legal compliance, having your own terms, conditions, and being the transaction hub, if you like. Whereas in the past, it was all about being the front door and, getting people off Google to hop over to your website and click the various links. Now that's happening much less because of the AI and AI overviews and zero-click search and stuff. Yeah, it's a scary time. So a lot of these kind of companies are perhaps scratching their heads, thinking, have we got the right marketing manager? Have we got the right head of marketing? Have we got the strategy right? What's going wrong? We're spending the same amount of money or more money than we were last year, but we're not getting the traffic, we're not getting the conversions, and that's because there's been this shift, you see, with regard to AI search and AI agents, AI overviews, and all the rest of it. And companies who don't have the right strategy, who aren't deploying the resources in those directions right now, or even better, 6 months ago or 12 months ago, are likely seeing losses with regard to the traffic that they used to have, and then maybe having to go out and do things in slightly different ways, more door knocking, bringing people up, more posts to social media. That doesn't always result in, because what I'm trying to say is social media doesn't always, well, from what I know, social media doesn't recommend content, unless it's a manual post or something. Whereas for AI, when somebody searches on Google or one of the search engines, the AI will cite and recommend content based on the search query that's put into the search engine. Yeah, so that's the difference. Okay, so let's carry on. So a separate randomized study of 1,065 desktop Chrome users found that AI overviews cut outbound organic clicks by 39.8%, okay, and raised zero-click searches by 34.5%. Again, staggering amounts. When the feature appeared, when the feature AI overview, with no measurable improvement in how users rated their search experiences. That's cited by PPC Land. Yeah, I'm citing the sources for this because it's quite an important topic. So, Bain & Company's 2025 data is even starker. Queries with AI overviews have an 83% zero-click rate. Gosh, that's a lot, isn't it? And in Google's experimental AI mode, it hits 93%, according to Strategic YC. Yeah, I think that's right. Strategic YC. Gosh, so I'll just repeat that. So Bain & Company's 2025 data is even starker. Queries with AI overviews have an 83% zero-click rate, and in Google's experimental AI mode, it hits 93%. Staggering. Yeah, I mean, I've mentioned virtually all the videos that I've done, certainly in the last year, that the whole marketing thing is shifting. It's changing the job market as well. It's not what this video is about, but, a lot of the people who, like me, who work in marketing, got certain skills in certain areas and stuff. And now, because of this shift and pivot to AI and, kind of AI search engines, AI traffic, and all the rest of it, we're having to kind of upskill and learn new skills and adapt, as the end users are, as like companies and businesses. So yeah, it's a challenging time. Okay, so Chartbeat data shared with Axios showed small publishers lost 60% of their search traffic in 2 years. Medium sites dropped 47%. Wow. And even the biggest publishers lost 22%. While traffic from AI chatbots still accounted for less than 1% of total publisher page views. And that's cited by e-commerce Fastlane. Gosh. Okay, so we're on to the next chapter now. So talking about AI agents and whether they're starting to do shopping for us. Personally speaking, I have not. A lot of these sites are automated. I use Amazon a lot. But I can't honestly say I've use an AI agent to do shopping for me personally. I still prefer to log into an e-commerce site, kind of zip around the store, put in the basket what I want, and do the checkout. It's incredibly quick. Even with Amazon, I ordered something the other day. I ordered it at like 6 p.m. and by 5 p.m. the next day it was literally through the letterbox. Incredible. So the speed of these things. But let's just get back to, because we're kind of digressing a little bit, let's just get back to this. So are AI agents starting to do the shopping for us? The threat isn't just the threat isn't just answer engines keep you on the page. It's autonomous agents browsing and buying on your behalf. I've not seen that personally yet, but I think it's coming. Gartner predicts that by 2030, 20% of digital commerce transactions will run through AI platforms or autonomous agents, according to Magic Suite. So as I said, I don't believe we're at that exact stage yet. Well, obviously we're not. I've not had AI agents doing shopping for me, but the speed that this thing's going, and governments around the world are building massive data centers, including in the UK and America and other countries as well. The breakneck speed that the AI explosion is going, it's coming. Whether or not it's going to be a good thing is something perhaps we'll be asking in the years to come. Okay, so look, let's get back to it. So Gartner also forecasts that by 2028, 90% of B2B, business-to-business buying, that is, will be intermediated by AI agents, and 80% of customer service queries will be automated by agentic AI, according to Magic Suite and CX today. We already see the customer service thing, being automated by different forms of AI. I mean, I see that with my bank. The different we got a customer service, but it used to be a couple of years ago. It used to be great. We could actually message them and get an email back from a human being. And with some banks like Starling, that is still the case. But with other banks, certainly the big four, the big five, a lot of them have got bots now, which I personally don't like. I feel you got less control. You ask a question and it will kind of summarize your query back and say, is that correct? Choose 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you go through to the next loop. And yeah, I don't like it. I much prefer talking to a human being. So McKinsey estimates agent-driven commerce could redirect 3 to 5 trillion of global retail spending by 2030. That's quoted in dollars. Shopify reports orders from AI-powered searches grew 15 times year on year through 2025. It's quite a lot, isn't it? 15 times. And ChatGPT has launched shopping features backed by its agentic commerce protocol, according to International Finance. Okay, Adobe Analytics finds 73% of US consumers now cite AI as a primary source for product research, according to Magic Suite. Yeah, we're getting to that stage where, everything, all these companies, bid for efficiency, speed, cost reduction, accuracy, mainly cost. There's this AI race on. It's here already. It's just going to get bigger and bigger. As I say, whether that'll be a good thing or a bad thing is another conversation. I was reading a separate article this morning about different kind of scientists. I'll try and find the actual text for that, or I'll go back to the link I was looking at. I'll see if I can put some of those in the description. A lot of leading figures are saying that perhaps we might not be able to control the AI when it gets too intelligent, and Bill Gates was one of the people who said that. It might become a concern in the next 10-15 years. It's already incredible what it can do. Some of the things which the AI can do, it can write whole essays in 90 seconds flat, 20 seconds flat. And a lot of countries and authorities and senior people are saying that it might cause the people in generation below me, including my generation as well, to maybe be a bit lazy and rely on the AI a bit too much. So there's going to have to be these controls built into it. I believe many people believe that, by the way, to make sure that it doesn't run away and start controlling us, if that makes sense. Yeah, it's crazy the speed of it. Okay, so the implication, if an agent is doing browsing, comparing and buying, the website stops being a destination and becomes a data source. And this is what I was saying at the beginning of the video, like looking ahead, the next 5 years, the websites which exist or that may exist will become more of a piece of infrastructure. So it would be more structured, machine readable catalogs that answer specific questions rather than a homepage designed to seduce humans. All of us would agree in the past, we've had a beautiful web designer create a beautiful page designed to seduce humans, written by the copy's been written by a human with certain tone and impulses, if you like, to get humans to click on the next button and stuff. But that's all changing now. It's already happening, but it's going to get bigger and bigger. The AI is looking for websites that are machine readable to cite the source, quote the source, and potentially refer an inquirer back to a website to complete a transaction. So it's less of it's going to be less of a kind of front door, airy fairy, human written copy type thing. It's going to be more of a kind of legitimate piece of infrastructure from a legal, terms and conditions, privacy statement, and a transaction hubs side of things. Because I suppose the paradox of this is like if the websites didn't exist, then the AI won't be able to cite the source or refer the inquirers back to the website. So they will exist, but it's definitely changing. Everyone can see that, especially people in business who were getting lots of inquiries and now they're getting less. Okay, so social and video platforms are becoming the search engine. Younger users are increasingly starting product and information searches on TikTok, YouTube and Instagram rather than Google, combined with messaging apps, voice assistants and marketplace checkouts. The traditional visitor website funnel is fragmenting across many surfaces. Yeah, look, I see that. I've got a TikTok account. I don't use it much. Have a look if you want. I've got a YouTube. Obviously, this is YouTube, but I'm on Instagram as well. And a lot of products have been advertised on these platforms. In the feed with the algorithm and stuff. And it's a great way to create brand awareness, and it's also cheaper to advertise on TikTok, Instagram than perhaps it is with Google Ads. That's certainly my experience. So yeah, these things are becoming great. Are becoming the search engine. It's where younger people are going, not necessarily like kids, but the demographic, let's say 40 and below, maybe above 40. People are. So what I'm trying to say, people aren't just going to Google to research a product. People are, might be researching a product on TikTok or Temu or Instagram or Threads or whatever it might be. So the whole website thing is becoming more fragmented. Basically, that's what I'm trying to say. Okay, so here's the case that websites will survive, but in a different form. So ownership and control versus rented land. So every platform is a landlord. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, social algorithms change overnight. You see, this has happened to me. I've spent months and months and months working on a platform, and the amount of subscribers and followers, connections, and then new algorithms come in, or the platforms change the rules, and then you're at a disadvantage because it's not your site. You're renting a space on their site, if that makes sense. Okay, so excuse me. Yeah, so social algorithms change overnight. Accounts get suspended, and platforms reach decays unless platforms reach decays, or declines is a better word, unless you feed it constantly. So a website is the only place you fully own the relationship for data and the experience. Brands that abandon websites for Facebook pages in the 2010s, 2015s perhaps, maybe even 2020s, learned this the hard way when organic reach collapsed. Okay, so trust, legal and compliance. So you can't host terms of service, privacy policies, regulatory disclosures, pricing, and technical documentation solely inside a chatbot. Banks, healthcare, legal and government services all need durable, auditable, linkable pages. AI answer engines, or let's call them AI search engines, themselves need trustworthy source material to cite, as I was saying at the beginning of the video, which means the open web stays valuable precisely because it's the kind of citation layer that the AI needs to quote the source and refer a user back to it by providing a link. Yeah, it's a deep subject. I wanted to make a video about this today because, everyone's talking about, social media and, YouTube and content creation and stuff. And, although I've made a couple of videos on AI search, not too in depth, this was like kind of last year, things have moved on a bit, and, this video will hopefully give you a bit of a flavour for what's happening right now and what's going to happen in the next 5 to 10 years and beyond. Okay, so right, so transactions, accounts and support flows. Check out account management, subscriptions, returns and complex support still need a controllable environment. Okay, marketplaces take a cut and impose their rules. An owned site lets a business keep margins and customer data. So if you own the site, you can kind of control your margins and you can control your customer data, whereas if you've got everything on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok, for example, or some AI chatbot, you haven't got the same amount of control over how things are displayed, because these platforms can change the rules and they can change the algorithm, and if you've got everything on a rented piece of land, i.e. a third-party platform, and you don't have your own site, then you could very easily find yourself at a disadvantage, corporate disadvantage. AI needs websites to exist. Here's the paradox, as I mentioned. So AI overviews, ChatGPT and Perplexity all summarize and cite website pages. If websites vanished, the AI engines would have nothing to read. The website becomes infrastructure for AI, a source layer rather than a destination, but a necessary one. Many years ago, not that many years ago, sort of 5 years ago, I used to have a website, and it's so cheap to get one up. Depending on what kind of website you need, if you just want like a little simple business card website, you can literally throw one up for a tenner on I think it's card.io. Let's just check that out. I think it might be, it's card.io, or hang on, bear with me 10 seconds. It's either card.io or card.co. Corrections, my apologies. And you can literally throw one up for a tenner. If you're a one-man band, you might be like a plumber or electrician or a carpenter or a handyman or something like that, and that would suit you great. And there's some quite nice designs, and they're responsive. I work on like mobile devices, great. You can't beat that. I haven't found it anywhere cheaper. Even if you go to like GoDaddy, or 123 Reg or Cloud Next, anywhere like that, or any of the other sites, you're looking at the best part of 70 to 100 quid a year. So depending on what you need, it's really cheap. I'm not recommending anything, I'm just saying, how cheap it is. But, it's necessary to have a website, and it will be, because you need to have all your pricing, your terms and conditions, your, registered office information if you're a limited company, or if you're a sole trader, like your trading address could be a post box address. So these things won't disappear, but as I said, the idea that you can have a beautifully designed homepage from a digital marketing agency, and that's going to result in a lot of click-throughs, is kind of not really the reality going forwards. Because AI is growing and it's citing sources based on what people type into the AI chatbots, and I mean even Google's got its own form of AI. Like if you just go to Firefox, and instead of typing in the actual box in the middle of a browser, type in the box slightly above it where it's got a little Google icon, just ask a question and it will feed you back an AI overview, and it's very accurate. Yeah, definitely, and it's free, and the thing I like about that is you can get an unlimited amount of queries or search queries, whereas if you use some of the other platforms like ChatGPT or Perplexity, they limit ChatGPT, they limit you to so many free queries a day, and then they want you to upgrade. So yeah, Google search is great. Let's get back to this. Got too many windows open, which is normal. I have it open in front of me. 5 seconds. Here we go. Right, so consumer caution is real. Despite the hype, consumers are not ready to hand over everything to AI agents. I'm certainly not just yet. One study found consumers expect only about 10% of their shopping to be done using AI agents within 5 years, and in-store shopping is still preferred by the majority, including myself. And that's quoted by Green Sheet, or cited by Green Sheet. Roughly 27% rejected the idea of AI agent shopping outright. Habits change slower than headlines. Yeah, I can understand why people don't want to do that, because surely if the AI agent's going to do the shopping for you, it means that the AI knows a lot of it means either the AI agent even knows a lot of information about you, or you're giving the AI agent a lot of information about yourself. Almost the same thing in different in reverse. Look, there's quite a bit of stuff here. There's loads more. I'm not going to read out, I'll read out some of the pros and cons, and then we'll wrap up the video. So, keeping the traditional website, you got full ownership of your data, brand and customer relationship, trust, legal compliance, and auditability. So you get an auditor in, they want to check what information you got on there and stuff. It's required a citation source layer for AI search engines. Higher margins on transactions, i.e. no platform fees. You sell on TikTok Live or TikTok Shop, they take a cut. Of course, and there's other platforms that do as well. Long form evergreen discoverable content. So evergreen content is reliable content which kind of sits in the normal scheme of things, which people can relate to well. Some of the cons of kind of maintaining the status quo with the traditional website: harder to get traffic as zero click searches rise. But that's a big issue facing companies of all sizes. You see, if you go out and spend $5,000 on a website, so say if you're a new company and you're hoping to launch, then if you haven't got a very strategic plan, a lot of budget and the right people to optimize for AI search, then it's almost a waste of time, because there's lots of kind of things that need to be done, like what's called GEO, which stands for generative optimization. Generative, so it used to be SEO, search engine optimization. GEO is generative engine optimization. A bit complicated that, maybe not. So that's a new thing. And look, there are some platforms out there which claim to be able to help businesses get optimized for GEO. Profound AI is one of them, but there are others. It's quite expensive, by the way, because it's a new thing, because it's not mainstream, because not everybody's trained up in it, and because it's a developing, emerging, evolving thing. It is quite expensive. What I'm trying to say is it's not like £50 to get some of these chatbots sending thousands of people to your website. But that's a work in progress. As it evolves, as the platforms, as the kind of specialist companies which are or people who are involved in that area learn more, and the integration between the AI chatbots, search engines, and the actual websites and the sources improves, then over a period of time that will improve. But it's a very new thing. It's been around for about maybe a year and a bit. But the idea that any marketing manager can just say, right, this is what we're going to do, and we're going to have floods of inquiries from GEO and AI search engines is a bit of a fallacy, because it requires a lot of money, requires a lot of skill. It's a new thing, it's evolving. I don't think anyone knows it all, to be honest. There are some platforms out there, but they're limited to maybe less than 10. Certainly from ones I've come across, I've not come across more than 10 platforms which are well known and ready to help end users, businesses get recommended to AI search. So just to correct that, or kind of better phrase that comment, yes, sure, there's digital marketing agencies. There's lots of those who will offer to help to do that. But again, it's a new thing, and how many clients have done that for, how good they are at it, given that it's an evolving thing, and things might change in the next 12 months, remains to be seen. But there are options, but you need a lot of money, and it's going to take time. So SEO is becoming less reliable and more expensive for the reasons I've just explained. So maybe some of the very smaller businesses, maybe they stick with SEO, and just to some extent posting to social media is a type of SEO, because that indexes, you post to TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, those social posts, they index, and if people search for you, online, or search, some of the things which can be cited back as sources can include Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, so to some extent that is a type of SEO. I'm not saying that's enough in itself, but that is, definitely a part of it. Okay, another con is, as in cons, it's maintenance, hosting, and security overheads. So it's getting, more expensive with cyber attacks to put in place the right kind of hosting and security and stuff. Depends how big the business is. The bigger the business, the more expensive that bill is going to be, especially if you've got millions of customers. Okay, and the other cons is losing the discovery battle to AI and social platforms. So you can see how this whole thing is fragmenting, and to be honest with you, a lot of marketeers and marketing managers within companies, they're kind of struggling to stay on top of it, just like we all are. Some kind of look at their budget and look at their resources, and they think, well, let's just post to social media, carry on making phone calls, do email marketing, a couple of events a year, a newsletter once a quarter, because that's kind of what their budget permits. But the bigger the company, so if we just think about some kind of company at random, like Barclays Bank, or EasyJet, or MasterCard, companies of those sizes, they have a lot more budget to spend on things like GEO and getting recommended on AI search and all the rest of it, and I've got many more options because I've got a budget. So like moving to AI social app interfaces, here are some of the pros. Reach users where they already are. AI answer engines, or AI, so I prefer AI search engines, a better term. Social and messaging, like basically, but one of the benefits of moving to AI and social and app interfaces is you can reach users where they are, instead of trying to get them to jump over a fence to your website. You can actually start a conversation with them there, or create brand awareness actually in their feed, or depending on what they're looking at. AI agents can transact autonomously at scale, lower friction, conversational, voice friendly, taps into viral social discovery. Some of the disadvantages or stroke cons: you're renting an audience from a platform, but it can change the rules at any time. I'm sure that's happened to all of us. We've maybe put a lot of work into Instagram or Facebook or TikTok or YouTube, and the algorithms changed, or they've changed the policies and the rules and stuff. So it's an ever-evolving landscape. You've got less control over your data, pricing, and brand experience. If these platforms say that's not allowed, or you can't do this or you can't do that, you're kind of stuffed. So platform fees and commission cuts, as I mentioned, TikTok shopping, they take a cut. There are other platforms as well that take a cut, and there's lots of them, by the way. Some of them are e-commerce platforms, but they all take a cut. AI agents need trustworthy website sources to function at all. So yeah, if you're shifting everything over to kind of, like I mentioned, if you're shifting everything over to AI, social interfaces and apps and stuff, you just need to be aware that, these apps, AI agents and stuff, they need a website source to be able to cite and refer the searches, if you like, back to you. So yeah, it's a mixed one, isn't it? There are benefits with both sides of this. So don't abandon your website, reposition it, make it credible. Okay, make it credible, fast, well structured. Make it a layer that AI wants to, a source layer that AI wants to cite and recommend. If you try and do that, you won't go too far wrong. Optimize for AI discovery, often called GEO, which is Generative Engine Optimization. Use clear headings, FAQs, schema markup, citations, and fresh authoritative pages. Build platform native content on YouTube, TikTok, LinkedIn, Instagram, where discovery is actually happening. Capture first-party relationships, so things like email lists, communities, and accounts, so you're not dependent on any rented platform space, if that makes sense. It's important to have your own email list and your own data, because if you get locked out of a platform, if they change the rules, and you're not happy with the rules and you don't want to continue, then you might find yourself in a bit of a pickle. So make your website AI agent readable, structured product data, clear pricing, and machine-friendly catalogs. Let AI agents send you transactions instead of just summarizing you. So websites won't vanish in 5 years, but the idea of a website, being a primary front door where humans type in a URL, and land and browse on your website, but that's something that's fading. It's already happening now, and it's only going to get worse. So look, there's loads of stuff here. I will put some of these sources that I've quoted into the description, so you can check it out for yourself. Fascinating subject. I'll just wrap up by saying that, a lot of companies are looking for marketing staff, a lot of marketers like myself, everyone's going through this kind of transition period right now where, they're looking at this strategy, and they're looking at the budget, and they're trying to figure out, what the customer journey is for their would-be customers, and how they can best reach them, whether to deploy money into social media and brand awareness, into Google Ads, into TikTok shopping, into etc., or e-commerce platforms, or to chuck money at SEO, which has historically been the case, or to invest money in GEO, which is Generative Engine Optimization, which is basically like SEO but for AI search engines, if that makes sense. So yeah, it was a lot to consider. A lot of things have changed, a lot of things are going to change more. It's very unpredictable, it's very, it's an evolving landscape. But yeah, look, I'll leave it there. I've talked for far too long. I hope you got something out of the video. Apologies if I read off the screen a little bit too much on this one, but there's a lot of information, so I just wanted to kind of do a bit more of that rather than just talking freelance, because this is quite important information. So thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you on the next video. Take care. Bye.